The Hedgeless Horseman here. It's November the 15th, 2022. Somewhat eventful day today. I think metals oscillated all over the place. I think they started off down, then up, then down. Yada, yada, yada. Chaotic. But as always, people buy sell based on feelings. And also based on what I think tomorrow is going to look like. And typically, the saying, what weather do you expect tomorrow? I expect the same weather we had today. I mean, that's just how we work. And also, I mean, some miners have been going up last, several days, maybe a week. So like always, there's no trend that goes straight up. All trends are made up of many small cycles within. Stocks go up, stocks go down. And if it's a bear market, the trend is down. If it's a bull market, the trend is up. And that is also one important thing, because typically, like we always feel entitled to, that everything should go up every day. Without any change in news or anything like that. Because we own the companies. We own them because we expect them to go higher. I mean, that is for sure. I mean, that's why anyone would buy. What differs is obviously the time scales, time focus, etc. I mean, I try to not guess where a stock is going in the short term, because that's what everybody else is doing, and rather take advantage of short-term fluctuations, volatility, sentiment, yada yada, and look out maybe 6 to 12 months or something like that, because nobody cares about 6 to 12 months from now. I mean, that's a lifetime for most people, and I mean, I feel that too. It's just that I am often able to have that discipline. I mean, I'm typically bullish on a company over the next, 6 to 12 months, etc. Especially if it's a, hodl case. I mean, then we might be talking years. And it's my experience that whenever I try to trade or guess short-term movements, for example, that typically does not end well. But if a case is good, for example, if I just hold on to it, I get bailed out in time, even if I do end up in the short term buying high, selling low. But I never do that on a macro perspective or portfolio perspective, since I'm always fully invested. And my active trading is typically not, I mean, it's not a lot. And I mean, the hodl portfolios I manage, I might be doing maybe 2 transactions per month on average, something like that, and they still beat the GDXJ by 3 times over or something. I mean, that's just how it goes. But we saw that in Snowline today, for example. The results were very good drill holes, especially the 2 highlighted holes. The holes drilled in the halo came in lines with the last hole that was drilled into the halo, about 0.24 grams per ton, which obviously is not going to get anyone excited. But the caveat to that is that Fort Knox, which is also a reduced intrusion related gold system, and a valley lookalike, that mine right now I think has a cutoff grade of 0.1. So even though that is low, very low grade, that kind of grade can actually work in a economies of scale type mine, a large mine, where you move a lot of dirt, because that's probably actually profitable or close to profitable even now, perhaps at Fort Knox. And if you do end up putting a mine at Valley, when you already have a mill there and all infrastructure, yada yada, you're probably gonna end up mining the 0.24 grams per ton, because we know the supply-demand issue is for gold and any other metal really is not getting better, it's getting worse. So who knows? Maybe you actually do make a good buck on 0.24 grams per ton in a reduced intrusion related gold system at the time that Valley would be mined. But excuse me, but of course nobody cares about that right now. I mean, nobody almost cares about anything. Because yes, we're off the lows, but it's still not a there's no gold fever really. I mean, most companies are still dirt cheap, and like we saw today, as soon as a down day in paper prices come, buying power disappears. I mean, it is literally that, predictable. It's like no, and again, you have to combine that with the fact that yes, some people are actually sitting on profits over the last week or so. So there was probably some short-term profit taking and scared money, because 95% are short-term traders, etc. So I mean, it's a vicious cycle in terms of you have traders profit taking, iffy sentiment environment, and everybody else is a trend follower pretty much. That's why, I mean, these companies oscillate up and down on a daily basis. I mean, who cares? Let's say gold was down, I don't know, 0.3% for a period of time. It's like, what does that matter to any junior really? I mean, most juniors won't have anything into production in 10 years anyway, so who cares what the paper gold price was at on the 15th of November 2022? Has absolutely zero bearing on the value of a mine that's not going to be into production in 10 years. But that is how the market works, and that is what we must take advantage of. I should actually probably start with, take I-80 for example. I-80 released one of the best holes in quite some time. 60 gram per ton gold, 909 grams per ton silver, 15.7% lead, 1.1% zinc over 10 meters in their new CRD discovery. That is an absolute bonkers of a hole, obviously. I mean, I don't know how much that is, 1,000 gram meters, something like that, already next to what will become or is a gold deposit and is likely to become a gold mine. And they even have a mill there, and I think permits, etc. I mean, if there was ever a discovery that's probably going to be a mine, let's say, this would be one of them. What happened? Stock opened up. I think for a period of time it was up 14%. I mean, that is acceptable. I think that was I don't know what the market cap was. So maybe it was up. Yeah, let's say 100 million. Sure, 100 million, it's like, that's a hefty ad, let's say. But what does this say about all the coming news releases? Because like I keep saying, I think the most important info you can find in a news release is what it suggests about the next 10 or 20. I mean, obviously it looks like they have a fat discovery, the fat CRD discovery, and this would be like printing money if when they mine that. So in time, how much value did the company actually add? I mean, I would say a substantial amount, because you don't need a lot of this to again be printing money, and it's I think wide open. So this discovery might amount to, who knows, hundreds of millions of dollars one day, maybe $1 billion or who knows. Again, it's like Fosterville wasn't a big mine, but it printed cash like crazy. So too early to say that. But the most important thing, which I tweeted, is like I-80 was already no-brainer cheap before this discovery. I mean, look, I haven't updated this since here or something. And you've probably seen me on or heard me on K Report. I've been pounding the table on I-80. I showed it in the HODL portfolio. It's like one of the absolute biggest no-brainers around. It's like when you have a case like I-80 and it trades this cheap or this cheap or this cheap or this cheap, I don't think you have any rights to call this sector hard to beat. it's just so mind-numbingly obviously cheap. It doesn't make sense at all, because you can't even replicate this kind of success. You can buy a more advanced one, and the sun costs like, I don't know, 2 billion or something. And I mean, again, look at these drill holes here. And then CEO, who ought to have a pretty good grip on what he has, bought for $500,000 here, $250,000 here. You had plenty of time to just load up. And I remember, I think it was the last time I talked about I-88K report. Because I remember I started buying I-80 up here, something like that. Maybe even earlier, let's say here. And I said recently, I think all of those buys are going to show a profit one of these days. We already got back up here. So I mean, case in point. This was going to go up without this, sooner or later without this discovery. And you can see what actually happened on the discovery day. I mean, again, it's like the market is totally toast. It opened up. I mean, obviously there's been a big rip beforehand. So, I mean, would I guess that there might be a leak? Yeah, I think so. But important thing is that, yes, a lot of people probably bought in here today. Or here, or whatever. You know, buying the tops, you're excited, etc. That is okay if it's a good story. I think this top will be surpassed. And if that doesn't, I mean, this was just in March. This is like 7 months ago. If this within, a year or two goes up here, let's say, well, okay, maybe a bit higher, let's say 5 from like 4. Okay, 25% return, not superb actually. But it's like, yeah, I think it's going to go a lot higher than that with time. So might be a bad example. Probably should have used logarithmic short. But my point is that when you see something that is such a no-brainer, it's like, I mean, you can obviously see that, this is totally unsustainable. And you don't even need anything to really happen. They had 12 million ounces and like 100 million ounces of silver here. Infrastructure, de-risked, deposits. You didn't even need an exploration potential, because that's typically, I mean, if we're in growth plays, you know me, I'm in a lot of alpha growth plays. I'm still betting on a future that has yet to come. Events. Company fundamentals changing. Western Alaska drilling more CRD. Snowline, drilling up valley, yada yada. In cases like this, you don't even take the exploration risk. Because they will add, I think they planned on adding like 20% to the resource this year alone. I mean, what's that? Let's say 2 million ounces. I mean, how much is not that worth alone? So this is just, this case shouldn't even be around. I mean, or it should never have traded down here. That is how, in my opinion, easy this market is to beat. It's just that you have to have a longer term perspective. Because if you think you can guess where the market is going in the short term, guess again. It's like never probably gonna happen. You can see, stuff like this. Superb drill hole. And, yes, it opened up 14 or it actually opened up here, went up there, and then bam. Because it was a risk-off day, people were sitting on profits, yada yada. But also the important thing is that, let's say the trend. If you buy here and then give up because it gave everything back, no stock goes up forever. Look at this, for example. If you just bought, around this line here, let's say, sometimes high, sometimes very low, yada yada. Your average returns are still going to be profitable, especially from this no-brainer level here. And yes, it's going to be made up of like, ramps and then profit taking and then ramps, etc. But it's like everybody's trying to guess every ramp because they never can you know, the worst thing that can happen is that they're down on paper. Again, my hodl portfolios are beating the GDXJ by I think 3 times or something last 3 years. And that's in juniors. It's not even in GDXJ. And juniors have been absolutely dog shit on average just last year. I mean, I think all portfolios are managed, or all, yeah, I think all portfolios. One is up, I think, like, well, Snowline went down today a bit, Magna as well. But I think one is up like, I don't know, 20%, one is up 10, one is up, I don't know, 10 as well, something like that. And that's from just hodling, low maintenance, low activity hodling, you know, the best stories, pretty much, including I-80. I actually added to I-80 when I saw this kind of reaction, because to me it's just, okay, the market is stupid as it always is, especially at sentiment lows. I mean, if I wasn't worried about buys that started happening up here, it's like, I'm not worried about this buy at all. I'm not worried about a candlestick like this. I mean, for the long term, I think the hodl portfolios will make money on I-80 from this level and that level, actually. Just in time. I mean, if this, I mean, their goal, I think 2025 is like, I don't know, 400,000 ounces producer or something. I mean, let's say we get some help from the gold price. Where could I-80 be trading at? I mean, surely, you know, possibly a few multiples of where it is trading today. So it's like, this is all is noise. All short-term stuff is noise. And there's been pretty good discussion. And again, it's like, you even had the CEO buy again. I mean, if he thought this was like a no-brainer buy, it still went down 30%. It's like, I mean, the market, in my opinion, I mean, everybody says, you know, the market is always right. My base case is the market is always retarded. That is my base case. Otherwise, I would get scared shitless if it started falling. I wouldn't trust myself. I was like, oh, the market knows something. The market knows something. Or yes, now it's time to buy when and nothing has perhaps happened and it just went up in price, so the opportunity got worse. Yeah, then I have to get in. No, it's like you can see in this chart. I mean, obviously this is a good company, but it's like, when does buying low not work out? It always works out. If you just bought every low here, for example, you know what I mean. And you can't even trace that because these results are very good, and still it went down. So I hope you get what I'm saying. It's like you wouldn't even need to buy, you know, because of something positive or whatever. It's like if you bought here when positive things happened, didn't stop it from going down, and didn't stop it from going up later when perhaps not much had happened. I mean, this ramp, for example, was, I don't think it was really any big news behind this. Again, maybe a leak, but you see this zigzagging stuff. And on that point, actually, I think I was gonna add a bit on, or to a family portfolio. And I had just been looking at this, and I think there's been a, you know, fund selling, etc., etc. And I didn't know that, you know, the market would turn around or whatever. So I did a sin myself. I think I remember holding off adding even more here because I saw it go down here and thought, well, okay, this fund, who is obviously very motivated seller, is probably, you know, gonna break this, and then he's gonna, you know, get people to sell, because that's, I mean, people are trend followers typically, and and that made me not buy. Add, and you can see what that cost me. I mean, 50%. So it just goes to show that I'm not perfect. I make mistakes as well, but I just get constantly constant reinforcement. That's like looking at charts, looking at where you think a stock is gonna go in the short term. That is like the worst thing you could do. It's like, seriously, it's like, okay, if I'm looking at this, I'm seeing a big red candle, And it's like, yeah, okay, I should probably sell because, you know, you have a fat big red candle and you have a gap here. It's like, but what does it matter in the long term? It's like super cheap now. If it goes down and fills this gap or gets lower, that just means the buying opportunity is even better, and maybe I can change around some funds. So I mean, that is how you, in my opinion, again, beat this brain dead market. Don't take it seriously at all. It's like, I mean, funds and all of that. I mean, there's quite a few precious metal funds there out there that are not doing too well. There are some precious metal funds that are pretty much not even up over the last, I don't know, 14 years. So I mean, most fund managers don't have a clue about investing. Most retail certainly does not. High net worth individuals, many of them don't either. It's like there's a very select few people, I think, that are really good at investing in this space. And of course it's going to be harder if you have big money. I understand that. Still, it's like, don't take people too seriously. Read in the forums. Don't listen to a lot of people, honestly. Like I said, it's like 98% of is noise. And they might be trying to give you advice, but it's probably going to be bad advice, or most of the time it's biased in some way. I mean, I'm biased when I talk about companies I own, for example, and I'm going to be biased against companies I don't own. I want to see a reason not to buy them, and I want to see a reason why you should hold or buy companies I own. I mean, that just comes with the territory. The only way to really combat that, I guess, is like, you know, flush out the case. That's why I tend to do these very long articles, and typically I actually get even more bullish after I've written them. I think that has to do with, you know, I have a pretty good sense of risk reward, and then when I put it down on paper and, you know, consider every angle, it just reinforces my belief, and it also becomes fresh, because let's say you haven't looked into a story in quite some time, or no news has been out. You kind of forget why you bought it in the first place. That just comes with the territory. And when you reread the case or something, then you get excited again. But another example of, like, again, why this market is such a joke, that I can't possibly see how I can't beat this sector forever, pretty much, is Magna Mining. So I've been, you know, getting some, let's say, flack or whatever. I mean, like always, somebody calls me a pumper, and it's like, fair enough. I am, you know, quote, pumping the story. You know, whatever that means. I mean, to me, it's just being, in this case, it's like one of the biggest no-brainer buys I think I've ever seen. And again, no-brainer buy is not 100% guaranteed multi-bagger. If I knew Magna Mining would be a multi-bagger for sure, 100%, or even a 10-bagger or whatever, it's like I would be all in. I'm not all in Magna Mining. I'm not all in any stock. I have a very big position in Magna Mining because I think it's one of the best risk-reward cases I've seen in years. But I know things can happen. There might be nuclear war, or who knows, maybe nickel price crashes, etc. And it literally doesn't rebound, and, you know, even assets like this are, you know, never put into production. I mean, I don't think that is likely, and again, I don't try to speculate too much about stuff that has yet to happen unless it's like company specific stuff. But macro and stuff like that, I have no idea. But again, it's like I you know, had some, let's say, back and forth and discussions, and like this user here, if Magna is worth, say, 10x its value with a resource already proven up, why didn't the big boys pick it up? If it's too good to be true, it often is. Just asking. I mean, that's a fair point, and believe me, I've been paranoid about it myself. It's like, I mean, to me, this, you know, I'm so bullish that I get paranoid. I remember that, you know, a few months ago with, like, Snowline. So bullish, I was paranoid. The thing is, obviously, well, first of all, I mean, I wouldn't say it's worth 10x. I mean, could it become or could the share price 10x from here? Yeah, for sure. These guys have done it before. I mean, a 10x from here would pretty much be half of what they did with FNX mining. Is it possible? Yes, but that is not, I mean, it's not an obvious 10xer for me. What I have said is like, I think there's a very high probability of getting at least let's say, a doubling or a triple from this price level. And that's just based on what we know. That is why I like the risk reward so much. But I get flack for that, or some people say, well, I'm getting cautious here. You're so. Somebody said like, well, you're pumping so much, I get cautious, and it's like, in my opinion, then you don't understand the case. I mean, I could be pumping this much harder, believe me, but it's like I was still buying today. It actually, because I think there's a big seller, because if you look at there was some volume back here, but other than that, I remember days I was gonna buy Magna, and it's like there were 1,000 shares on offer per every cent. So if I bought 2,000 shares, I might run up the price by 5%. So it was almost impossible to get out or into. This is the first real big liquidity event any shareholder would have had, except for this perhaps. So that's happening now, and a bit here. But it's like, we have no idea. I have no idea who's selling. It's like, but if you have had your money tied up in Magna and you're down on everything else or whatever, and you really wanted to take money off the table, or in miners overall, or you're a fund and you have redemptions, but you're stuck, you can't sell Magnas, and you still have, let's say, a big position in Magna because you have to sell something else because there's no way of selling Magna, and you need to raise cash. I mean, then you have to wait for a liquidity event like this. So I mean, but I can't even fathom anyone who's actually, selling because they think, the case is bad or anything. I mean, that must be some of the worst investors I think I would ever know, in my opinion. Because, and on that note, it's like I try to make this as simple as possible because people are paranoid. It's like, well, you're pumping this. I mean, I think that this is the most easily pumpable case there is, for very good reasons. So I just, I responded to this Alvil here. 10x its value might come true with time. That's I don't know about that. But how about we start small and just look at only the change in nickel price. This is when the Mitsui MOU on Shakespeare was announced. Nickel was trading at around, 22,000 here. This is when definite agreement to acquire Lonmin Canada. And this was, of course, a deal which Jason has stated. They have been looking at Denison since they founded the company privately in 2016. This didn't just fall out of the sky or something. So you can just imagine how long the negotiations must have been and how well they must have known the sellers by now, etc., etc. So one could speculate okay, Mitsui MOU done here. What nickel price assumptions did Mitsui use? I have no idea, but it's obviously were lower before that. But in this case, yes, it was lower here, but higher here. Whatever. If you just go by the Mitsui MOU, at this point in time, they thought, okay, we'll give you, based on the negotiated MOU range. The company, the Shakespeare deposit alone, not the Shakespeare project, the deposit alone, Mitsui said, yeah, okay, we'll value it at 64 to 100 million Canadian. Magna Mining's market cap right now is 75, minus 9 million in cash, so it's 64 million. So precisely pretty much at the low range of what Mitsui said the Shakespeare deposit only was worth here. And who knows, I mean, Magna has not executed on that. Might that have something to do with, them thinking, well, I mean, they really needed the cash back then. nickel prices hadn't been doing so well, and well, they had actually been going up at least, but it's like this was still, you know, in a junior bear market, and they only had the Shakespeare, and that was a Shakespeare project, and that didn't look sexy. Then you had the I don't think even the top here is included in, because nickel went way up. But what do you do if you see nickel just go like that? I mean, I wouldn't want to part with the project at that point in time. But still, it remains that at this particular time here, Mitsui agreed on an MOU and valued Shakespeare alone at $64 to $100 million. Right now, the enterprise value for the whole Magna is $64 million. Not fully diluted though. So, here we have definite agreement to acquire Lonmin Canada. Almost the exact same nickel price when both deals were, you know, signed, let's say. Nickel is today, close today, it's up 27% in 8 days and is trading at 33% higher than any time or the prices of nickel when the deals were struck. So just to make it as simple or obvious just how, I mean, if anybody says that anyone is a pumper for being very bullish on Magna right now, at these prices, they have to be an absolute moron. Probably they're both a moron and pretty, I mean, let's say jealous or envious or want to bash or want to buy themselves. But there's no good scenario for that person based on this simple fact. Like I say here, if we take this at face value, let's say you acquire, I did it, you know, converted it to gold just to help, you know, people think. Let's say you acquire 2 very advanced and permitted gold projects when gold is trading at $1,781 per ounce. You know, again, I used the gold price today to show, you know, to get people think what, you know, how much must have changed just with a 33% higher nickel price. At 781, a multi-billion dollar corporation, Mitsui, suggests your then only project is worth, say, 64 to 100 million in their eyes alone. Again, at 1781 gold. Then said company, now we're fast forwarding to today. Then said company adds the second asset, which has 50% more ounces at an even better grade, at even better grades, and gold has gone up a whooping 33%. That is where we are now. Because back here, when nickel was down here, Mitsui said Shakespeare alone is worth 64 to 100 million. At this point in time, with nickel prices at 22,000 per ton or whatever it is. Fast forward to today. What has happened since then? Nickel prices are up 33%, and we added a second asset, which is twice the size, or no, 50% right now, larger than the asset Mitsui said was worth 64 to 100 million at these nickel prices. So 50% more at better grades than Shakespeare. And you have 33% increase in nickel prices, which affects both. And you get the added synergy benefits, the value there. And who knows, it might be 100 million, maybe more than that. I mean, like I said here, so you have gone from one project valued at 64 to 100 million if gold was trading at 1781 to 2 gold projects plus the synergies, with gold now at $2,369. If it's not obvious why it's cheap just based on that example, then I can help you, I'm afraid. Literally the most obvious case I think I've ever seen. I mean, think about it. You have to be a complete moron, in my opinion. I mean, I know that sounds harsh, and I know this guy's not I don't think it's a moron, but it's like, if you actually sit down and consider what has happened. I mean, again, it's like, again, you have a gold company you have one advanced asset. Barrick Gold says, yes, this asset is worth 64 to 100 million dollars when gold is at 1781. And then the company with that asset acquires an even better asset. And then gold goes up to 2,369. And you're still, the whole thing is valued at the bottom range of what Barrick said only the first asset would be valued at a much lower gold price. I mean, that is one of the biggest no-brainers I've ever seen, because typically we don't see what an external party puts, what value an external party puts in. Because if you see a gold junior and you have Barrick or someone buy in a placement, they're saying that yes, we're willing to put money in at these prices. So we're saying it's at least worth the opportunity is at least worth what let's say the stock is trading at, or what the placement was trading at. It is not often we can have we see a multi-billion-dollar corporation help us out in such a way that they say, hey, we think this is at least worth X to Y. That is why it's such a no-brainer. That is why stuff like this, external validation, is worth its weight in gold if you're not really a mining engineer or geologist or anything. It's not me who said that Shakespeare was worth at least 64 to 100 million at these nickel prices. That was Mitsui. And again, now nickel is up 33%. And they added another asset that is even better than the first asset. So it's like, we know how margins work. Typically if gold price goes up 33%, the value of the miners go up much more than that, because the margins have leverage to the metal price. So let's say a 33% rise, the saying is that miners move 3 times what the metals do. So if we use that as an example, let's say we have Magna at stage 1 here, worth 64 to 100 million. Then we add a project that might be 50% larger in total metal endowment, but let's adjust for the grade, and let's say the actual value is double. So you go from 1 to 3, 1 plus 2, 3. Then you account for the change in nickel price, and sure enough, Magna does not only have nickel. But it doesn't matter, it's such a substantial rise anyway. So take that, it's like going from 1 to 3, and then let's say, because from both acquisitions, the price is up 33%. And, miners have, 3 times leverage, let's say. So that would mean, pretty much exactly 100%, or a double. So it's going from 1 to 3, to 2 times that, to 6. Theoretically here, but I hope you understand where I'm getting at. It's like, this is one, like I said in my last video about Magna, this is one of the biggest no-brainers I've ever seen, simply because we have, thankfully, simply because Mitsui put let's say a value tag or a price tag on Shakespeare alone at much lower nickel prices. So we again go from 1 to 3 to 6 times, what Magna Mining was worth here. 3x from the increase in margins at today's prices, and I read that nickel jumped based on nickel jumps as Tesla-backed miners spark supply fears. So what does that mean? Obviously this looks like, this is some kind of short squeeze, etc. There's a supply crunch. I've shown you the LME inventories. They're at 5-year lows in nickel. So, there is supply problems, obviously. But this is, who knows? Maybe this gets fixed tomorrow. I don't know. Maybe. But it's like, this is obviously not structural. So we can't, I mean, who knows where, if this mine was in operation today, would nickel be trading up here already? That I have no idea. But let's say it would be trading down here. That is still above every of the deal levels. I mean, where nickel or price trading at. And still we have the, let's say 200% addition in value from the added metal endowment in the form of Lonmin Canada's Denison project. So I mean, if nickel goes back here, Magna is still cheap. Because Mitsui said so. Right now it's like, again, one could, I guess, theoretically say, I mean, Magna wasn't trading at 64 to 100 here, but I think it was up to like 50 for a while before the MOU. I'm not 100% sure, but I think around, yeah, possibly when it started out or around this point actually. Yeah, maybe 50 actually. So I mean, not too far off from the lower end of Mitsui. And that was before we knew what Mitsui said. And again, I think one reason why they haven't struck a deal on the MOU is that I think, especially with this rising nickel prices, I don't think Magna is too happy about diluting Shakespeare for that kind of money, especially if there's a possibility we might get into toll milling in say 12 months to 18 months with not too much capital. Again, I hope this makes sense. It's like, as someone pointed out, if you have a voice following best stay quiet or you are a pump and dumper. We all take our profits and then shit hits the fan with the thesis. You are blamed for such unfortunate taking your profits. I appreciate newsletter. Let's see here. Where is it? I appreciate newsletter writers and other commentary. How much work Horseman put in that article? Enough to be sole due diligence people do. Anyways, thankless job and everyone should take a position with caution. Appreciate Horseman and Dr. Jim Jones bringing this to my attention. It's up to you how you trade it if you have a position. Sure, no, I mean, that's a very good point. I mean, you've probably seen this. I mean, I think I hear 10 to 20x. I get 10 to 20x the amount of flack if a story goes south, or if a junior I'm bullish on is even ever down, and this sector goes down 50% every 2 years or so. So you can appreciate how often that happens. How often do you? I know there's some there's some good people who's following this, and I see your comments, etc. And that's great to see. But it's like, this is a very thankless job. And sure, I mean, it's not like I don't have any perks from it. It's like I'm like right now, I'm quote pumping. I'm helping spread awareness to Magna because I think it's such a no-brainer. And it's like, if the market doesn't agree with me in the short term, like today, I mean, I added today. Simple as that. I mean, this company has no business trading down here. So whoever is selling shares probably due to reasons not tied to Magna, I would guess, it's like, thank you. I wouldn't want to be a seller based on what we know right now. And again, it's like, I think this is hands down one of the absolute most no-brainer risk rewards I've seen in years. But again, that does not mean that there's a guaranteed multi-bagger in store for us. I simply think, just based on where they already are, we don't need any exploration success really for this to be cheap. I mean, undervalued right now. I mean, it should be up just based on what is not known, and then we get all the exploration upside for free. So my thesis is that, again, judging by Mitsui's MOU here, the only real external value point we have to use, and given the price of nickel and the acquisition, that Magna is should probably, or I think there's a high likelihood of this going up 2-3x, and I think that's much closer to fair value based on where nickel is priced right now. I mean, might be more than that. Again, it's like theoretically it might be 6 times what we're trading at now. That would be like, let's say 70 plus 70 plus or 70 times 60. It's a bit more than that actually, but that gets us close to, let's say, 450 million, and Talon recently traded at 400 million, and we have a bigger resource than Talon, so it kind of fits. But it's like that is not why I'm bullish. It's like this is just so absurdly cheap right now. But if we go up to $1, I will make a lot of money. But at that point, this won't be as no-brainer. So let's say I have a 15% position right now. That doubles to 30%. Maybe I have a 10 position at that point in time. So I'm like, don't think I'm never going to sell any Magna shares. I have to, even though this might end up being a 10-bagger over the next 3 years. That does not mean I'm never going to sell. It's just that from a percentage-wise, my position is going to be the highest in my portfolio when the opportunity is absolutely the best. That's why I added today when it went down. But if it goes up 10% tomorrow, I might not add. But I'm still going to have a huge position and wait for, what I think is going to be a likely double or a triple. And then it's up to, we need perhaps some more exploration success to have it, do a 10-bagger. And obviously, things need to go right, obviously, for a 10-bagger to happen. But I think right now it's quite easy to see that this should already be at least 200% higher. And you have, again, it's like the team. And smart money, long-term investors, Haywood, David Elliott, Dundee with, what's his name, Goodman, who came onto the board. I mean, you don't come onto the board if you're going to flip a stock. So it's like, this is smart money personally piling into this story. Just, a few weeks ago. And that Hawks Point or something capital, which apparently do like 1 to 2 deals per year. Also, obviously, very long term. You don't flip 1 to 2 positions a year necessarily. I mean, I think all those smart money people who went in big into Magna recently, I think they're in for the long haul. They want to see an FNX, like Jason said in a recent interview. They believe in their vision and the team. That's their main attraction, because they know what FNX Mining did over 2002 to 2000, what was it, 6 or 7? Huge success over 3 years. One of the biggest junior successes ever. And these guys are doing this. They're following the same script as Jason has said. They want to, redo the same culture, etc. they had in FNX Mining. So I'm not ruling out that I could be up 1,000% in 3 years in Magna. But I'm not totally ruling out I might be down in Magna, because I have no idea what the future has in store. It's just my base case is a very probable 200% return, just based on what we know and what Magna has right now. Then it's up for, let's say, debate and how well they can get into production and all of that. Because again, in 2 years, I have no idea what the world is going to look like. It's just right now, this is extremely undervalued in my opinion. And I just want to show this segment here, which I think is telling.
Okay, and what's your hope for share price now? Because obviously you've seen a really nice reaction from the marketplace, but things will settle down. They always do, because it's going to take a bit of time for you to hit the next catalyst, the next moment along the journey that you're going on. Do you need to kind of give the market a few exciting things to look forward to? If you do X, Y will happen, or is it you're kind of happy with your lot right now given the market conditions?
Well, I think that the market is, just starting to digest the story. And, Matt, we've been talking for a number of years now. And, some of your viewers are familiar with Magna, but there's a lot of people out there that still aren't familiar with us, especially compared to some of our larger peers that are in the nickel space. So we think once we get the story out there, there's still lots of value, I guess, to be unlocked be recognized by shareholders. We do have a fairly tight shareholder structure.
I mean, I hope you understood what just took place here, because you have Matt, who I don't know, but I don't think he has done too deep due diligence on Magna. He basically suggested, well, Magna has actually had a 50% pop or whatever it is from the recent lows, and it's like you need something more then, because it's all priced in. I mean that's pretty much, and it makes sense. I mean that's how everybody's a catalyst hunter, etc., etc. What is gonna get people excited again, so they hit the buy button, etc. Jason's retort, if you understood what he said, is that he thinks it's still undervalued. He thinks it's not that there's a catalyst that is needed to bump up the value to get price to go up. He's saying that the value is so much higher already based on where they already are, that his catalyst for a revaluation higher from the 50% bump already is that just people actually get aware of the story, just how absurdly cheap the company is. I mean, again, let's take that again here.
You're kind of happy with your lot right now, given the market conditions.
Well, I think that the market is, just starting to digest the story and
starting to digest. Exactly. I mean, I talked to some people, fellow investors, etc. Almost nobody is aware of Magna. Almost nobody. It's like, just look at, sure, we've been churning some volume, etc. But it's like, I've taken a substantial amount of that. So I mean, I still don't see anyone commenting on Magna on Twitter. I think I put up a post of Magna and someone threw another nickel junior at me, or it had something to do with nickel. It's like, well, I think I'm 99% sure that Magna Mining is like head and shoulders above any other nickel play. Because in this interview, he also, he gets asked, what should we compare Magna to? And Jason says, well, we don't really have any peers because there's no nickel copper PGM junior that is this advanced in all of North America in a tier 1 jurisdiction. So it's like, yes, I think Magna Mining is, even though I haven't looked at every nickel company, but I used a example last video about the way, pre-resource junior that was already up at 20 million, and Magna is at, enterprise value 64. It's like, if that's trading at 20 million, Magna with 2 advanced deposits, permits, MOU, with a multi-billion-dollar corporation, cash in the bank, permitted mill, hub and spoke, in the Sudbury, great infrastructure, should be valued multiples of that. And yeah, I think multiples of where already is trading.
Matt, we've been talking for a number of years now, and some of your viewers are familiar with Magna, but there's a lot of people out there that still aren't familiar with us, especially.
Yeah, so again, it's like, I might be beating a dead horse here, but it's like, this, I think we're way early. Almost nobody is really aware of Magna, that it suddenly became the premier nickel play closest to production in all of North America, and PGM and copper actually. Again, it's like, this is still way under the radar. I think again, contrary to Matt suggested that, okay, you have a very nice bump and it's like, what then? It's like, no, we're not even close to pricing in what just happened when the maiden resource estimate came out. that's why I said it's like I have no problem buying high. It's like I've said after a discovery. I'm more inclined to buy in big after a discovery hole, because then I can see like, hey, these guys might be onto something. Then take the pre-discovery gamble of like, yeah, there's a 3% chance they will actually make a discovery, and all other times you'll lose 50%. If you're successful, you might go up 50 to 100%. Then I can add. I mean, some post-discovery plays, I might have a starter position, but it's like there's a bunch of pre-discovery plays that I have on my watch list. I might own some of them, but if they make a discovery, I might jack up my position size by like, several 100%, like I did Magna after discovery, because like I said or wrote when I published a piece on October 17, by this point in time, Magna had already become a top 3 position. My position is even bigger now, and I've been adding today. Why? Because the maiden resource estimate was that substantial. Came in way multiples of what I expected. So if the case gets a lot better than the price, I buy in. That's why I added I-80 today. Because this is possibly a who knows, world-class discovery they're onto, CRD discovery. You're not paying for it at all. So I hope actually that it goes down and fills this gap or whatever. I might take a massive position in I-80, because it's like again, probable returns. They would have like 3 or 4 or how many it is, significant deposits in that case with 2 mills, permits. The whole shebang. It's like dirt cheap. If I-80 becomes worthless, the whole sector would be worthless. Much longer rant than I anticipated, as always. I guess key takeaways, like, seriously, you can't take this market serious. You only have to have a longer time horizon. Everybody's guessing where it's going to be in the short term. I've shown the Bear Creek Mining proxy, for example. That chart tells you absolutely nothing. We can actually look at this. This tells you absolutely nothing about the short term. Doesn't say anything about the next day, week, months even. But for a longer term perspective, it says everything. Within 2 years, every buy at this level or around here would have had a 100% return. From this level, within 2 years, you typically sit on, or not even this low, you typically sit on a multi-bagger. Again, nothing about next week, next month, not even the next couple of months. But it says a lot of where we inevitably will end up. And again, this is a proxy. I'm not guaranteeing that Bear Creek will even be around, but this is for the junior sector overall. Again, it says nothing about next week or whatever. But in let's say, within 2 years, I think I'm gonna be up a lot. A lot. That is what this chart says. Says nothing about next week, next month, or anything like that. It doesn't even say when we are at a bottom or at the top. It just says, in the ballpark or whatever. That especially, below this level, for example, superb buys. extreme buying environment, and that's where we are right now. Even after today, when we saw like line 1 take 9% bath or whatever. But remember, line 1 had been doing well up until now. So it's like, yes, you're not going to have... let's look at it like this. If some juniors are up 20% in a week, you can't expect that to just compound 20% per week. That would be absurd. You would have 20 baggers in everything. No, the returns are made over time via like 20% up, 10% down, 30% up, maybe 40% down, then 80% up, yada yada. So it's like ups and downs, and it's the mean that we want to capture, because like you see, I mean, this oscillates fiercely. But if you just see the trend, that's a big trend. And here, yes, up and then down 40%, and up and down 60%. But actually, if you just look at the trend to the end point here, something like this. So don't get spooked by a 10% down in a junior. If the case is good, it's cheap, you just buy more when it gets cheaper. Yeah, consider me biased with everything. I probably own all stocks I mentioned. Some are banner sponsors. Magna is a banner sponsor. Yeah. Thanks for listening. As always, do your own due diligence. I don't share your profits or your losses. Oh, and I just had can't forget this. I mean, look here on the topic I discussed before. Doc Jones is pumping this hard with horsemen. The dump is coming. I mean, first of all, what an a-hole. But it's like, he must be incredibly stupid if he thinks I'm about to dump Magna at this valuation, given the reasons I just showed. But I mean, it's just obvious. I mean, this guy is obviously just a hellraiser, hater, whatever. And again, I'm not saying I'm never gonna sell Magna. It's just based on what is known right now. Things might change for the worse or for the better. Price might change a lot. If we go up 100% tomorrow, I would be stupid not to take some off the table, because the position would be truly enormous. It's just right now. My comments about Magna today are based on today, what we see. And at this level, based on everything we know right now, that is one of the biggest risk rewards, no-brainers I have seen in the last X amount of years. Big thanks to, Mitsui's MOU. It's not often we can use an external partner's validation like that. And yeah, it's like I summed up here. Price of Magna, the most advanced nickel unit in all North America, has had a flat price last 3 days. Now it's actually down, with nickel up 6% today and up 27% in the last 8 days. Is that a rational market? Is this market hard to beat? You tell me. I think this is, again, it's like playing against kids most of the time, especially in this sentiment environment. I mean, I can't possibly see how I'm not going to outperform, this sector forever, because there's so atrocious layups that comes around now and then. You don't need many cases like Magna Mining, and if a few of them work out, yeah, you can make a whole lot of money, again, without needing anywhere near 100% hit rate or a 10-bagger in every one, etc., etc. Thanks for listening. Bye.